Hello, everyone, and welcome to Truro Town Council, our first meeting for 2025. Before we begin our agenda for today's meeting on January 13th, I, Kathy Henton, Mayor of the Town of Truro, acknowledge we are on Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. We acknowledge the peace and friendship treaties and recognize we are all treaty people. We recognize African Nova Scotians are a distinct people whose histories, legacies, and contributions have greatly enriched the part of Mi'kma'ki, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. We will now proceed to our public agenda. This is our public council meeting for the town of Truro for Monday, January 13th, 2025. The first item is the approval of the agenda. Mr. Dolter, are there any changes, omissions, or deletions to the agenda today?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yes, there is one change to the agenda. Item 8B, which is a request for decision to set a hearing date for the Juniper Street development. That's been pulled from the agenda as the application has been withdrawn.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to call for a motion with the amendment that we remove the Juniper Street Juniper Street addition to the agenda. May I have someone to approve the council agenda for today, please? Councillor Fleming, thank you very much. Seconded by Councillor McGrath. Any questions on the motion? Councillor Graham.
I was just wondering if you could tell us what it means to have the application withdrawn. Does that mean they will be starting from scratch again, or are we expecting they will resubmit? Do you
if they do resubmit, it will be considered a new application. So they will start at the beginning of the development process through TPAC as an initial development and go through all the required stages.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions? No? Okay, so a motion's been made to approve the agenda with the amendment of removing that item. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion approved. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from December 2nd, 2024's public council meeting. If you've had the chance to read these and there are no changes, I would call for a motion to approve the minutes. Motion made by Councillor McGrath, seconded please. Councillor Talbot, all in favor? Aye. Contrary minded? Okay, minutes are passed. Thank you very much. There's no discussion. Okay, good. Now we move on to item 3. Petitions, delegations, and correspondence, Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have one item that came in late last week. This was circulated to Council, and it is a letter from the African Nova Scotian Community Strategy Committee, and the subject is rezoning of the island or the West Prince Street area. So it's a short letter. I'm going to just quickly read it, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
The town of Truro African Nova Scotian Community Strategy Committee met on Friday, January 10th, 2025, where town developments with the potential for directly impact the local African Nova Scotian community was discussed. From the discussion, the committee wishes to put forward the following recommendation. On a motion by Nevin Jackson and Butch Borden, the African Nova Scotian Community Strategy Committee recommends that Town Council support a change in zoning that would acknowledge and better protect the heritage integrity of the African Nova Scotian community known as the Island or the West Prince Street. And that's signed by Natasha Gray, who's co-chair of the committee. So, Madam Mayor, if there's anything from Council on this, it can be brought up through the questions by members later on in the meeting.
Thank you very much. That is further down on the agenda, agenda item 7, so thank you very much. Item number 4, Mr. Dolter, the request for decision under old business, application to FCM Climate Ready Plans and Processes Fund.
Thank you. So in October 2024, the Federation of Canadian Municipalities released a new funding pool for climate-ready plans and process as part of the Local Leadership for Climate Adaptation Initiative. This fund intends to help municipalities develop comprehensive climate adaptation strategies. Having a comprehensive climate risk assessment and resilience plan will open up additional opportunities for the town within this fund to undertake feasibility studies and capital projects related to adaptive initiatives. The town of Truro submitted an application for this program in December 10th, 2024 to develop a comprehensive community climate risk and assessment and resilience plan. The town has made an application requesting up to $70,000 which is the maximum amount in funding. Total project costs are expected to be between $100,000 and $110,000. Therefore, if the town was successful in obtaining the $70,000 in funding through the FCM Climate Ready Plans and Process Fund, the town of Truro would be required to fund the remaining $30,000 to $40,000. In order to complete the requirement for the funding application, a council resolution must be passed and completed before the funding is awarded. So, Madam Mayor, the proposed motion is be it resolved that Town Council supports an application to the Federation of Canadian Municipalities Green Municipal Fund Climate Ready Plans and Processes Program to develop a climate risk assessment and resilience plan.
Thank you very much. Councillors, you have heard the request for decision. Is there someone prepared to make a motion today? Councillor McGrath, seconded by Councillor Fleming. Any discussion, Council? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the risk assessment itself. Can you give a little more detail on what that will be? Because my understanding, the town will put like $30,000 to $40,000 into this effort, and we're seeking a grant of about $70,000, somewhere around there. So can you tell me the what risk assessment means? I mean, will we be looking at our capacity for inland flooding? We'll be looking at wildfire risk and our capacity to deal with that, et cetera?
Yeah, I'll just pass that question on to Allison Grant, just for.
Yeah, so we just finished the community energy and emissions plan. That looked at greenhouse gas mitigation. Now we want to look at a plan that looks at really climate adaptation. So the risks of climate change to our local area. So things like wildfire, flooding, stormwater management, those type of things. And sort of where our vulnerabilities are to that, and then develop a plan for how we can become more resilient.
But in order to understand those vulnerabilities, are we going to be looking at our capacity to deal with floodwaters, like stormwater management, and also with, just our ability? We're surrounded by forests, just not Victoria Park, but the town is pretty much surrounded by forests on at least a couple of sides. So
yes, yeah,
our
we'll look
ability
at all
to fight
that.
fires.
Yeah, we'll look at all that, and the County of Colchester has also applied to the same program for the same project. So if they're successful, they'll be looking at a similar project to us too, and there's a lot of areas there where we can collaborate.
Okay.
And I think the key piece about this too is the report itself will be the basis for applying for capital funding as well too,
Right.
which typically is through FCM. So it's kind of a fundamental base document in order for us to have it completed in order to be able to apply, because they would ask, have you done the risk assessment? And then we could refer back to that report.
Right, and I guess that's where I was leading, because I think we need enough detail that we can get an action plan out of it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Thank you, Deputy. And Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, Ms. Grant, you were saying about the CEEP and the link there. I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch some of that. Could you repeat, please? Maybe move the microphone a little more.
Sure. So
Wonderful, thank you.
our community energy and emissions plan looked at mitigation strategies, so ways that we as a municipality and as a community can reduce our greenhouse gases. This plan sort of looks at how we can adapt to climate change. So looking at flooding, wildfire, invasive species, and how we can prepare as a municipality for things like that.
Okay, so basically the CEEP was for mitigation, cutting our emissions, looking at reducing for what's going on 10, 20 years down the road. This is for the mitigation and adaptation of what's already going to happen to us as a result of the last 50 to 100 years of industrialization and burning coal and fossil fuels.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you know, we experience those more significant weather events and those things. How do we adapt to that, and how do we become more resilient?
Yeah, and the time is past for emissions control only. We absolutely have to plan for adaptation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Seeing no further questions. So, councillors, a motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor of supporting the motion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary minded, motion is approved. Thank you very much. Item 5, in-camera summary, Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we did not meet in camera during December, and there is nothing on the agenda today for in camera.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 6, we get to the point in our program of committee reports. After each report, council may ask questions, and after all the reports are presented, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the reports and any final questions. Our first report, you're up first, Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the first item is, I guess, the formal introduction of our Director of Corporate Service, Tara Russell. She's at her seat today. So I'm very pleased to be able to announce Tara's appointment, joining the senior staff team as a new Director of Corporate Services. So Tara brings a wealth of accounting and management experience from the private sector. So we'll be working over the next few months to use the term indoctrinate her into the municipal world, as it certainly is different from private sector. But again, we've had a great week so far. Last week was our first week, and we'll continue to show her the ropes around town, and she's getting her feet wet very quickly, so we're really pleased to have her. Next item is the International Association of Firefighters negotiations for our local. So we met on several occasions with the negotiating team from IAFF Local 627 as we work towards a new collective agreement. We've made progress on many of the issues that were identified, and as typically happens, we're down to a small number of more significant issues. We'll be briefing council in camera on those issues once we're ready to do so, and I hope to have that, be able in a position to do that shortly. Strategic planning sessions. We've scheduled a strategic planning session with council and senior staff for the 20th and 21st of January to be facilitated by an outside consultant. These sessions will contribute to a final plan that will be approved by council at a future council meeting. The information gained through the sessions will also assist us in the budget process that will get underway in February. The final plan will be an important document, as along with the municipal planning strategy, it'll help guide our decisions over the next 4 to 5 years. And it has been a number of years since we've gone formally through this process, so again, it is timely. Provincial policing standards meeting that took place on the 3rd of December. So Chief McNeil, the police board chair, Councillor Talbot, and I took part in a virtual meeting to discuss the new police standards that have been introduced by the province. We continue to have some concerns about the potential for costs being imposed on municipal departments, as the burden of providing some of the formerly central provided services is shifted to the local level. Central police services are part of the service exchange agreement and were parked by the province as they were to be part of additional negotiations. There's also a police review being conducted by the province, which has not yet been finalized. To have the standards brought down prior to these two processes being finalized, in my opinion, is premature. Again, I've been assured by different levels within the province that all things are being considered, but again, there is some reason to be concerned that we may take on additional costs. And particularly, Truro's in a fairly good position, but some of the smaller departments might not be in the same position. So again, just something for council to keep on the radar. Wastewater treatment plant agreement. We had a meeting on the 7th of January 2025. So staff and our solicitor are continuing to negotiate the agreement for the wastewater treatment plant owned by the county. We've provided comments back on the draft agreement in September. The county has agreed to respond to those comments in the hopes that we can come to a final agreement that will address the interests of both municipalities. The debris burn demo. Staff will be attending a demo of the burn process that could be one of the possible solutions in dealing with the debris pile in the public works area off Treatment Plant Road. We're planning to assess the technology to see if it could work to address our issues. It will be evaluated along with other options to determine the best course of action for the town. A full briefing package will be provided to council when we're in a point that we need a final approval. Again, we're not rushing into this decision, but just wanted, because I did brief it last month, I just wanted to make council aware that we are going to attend a session just to see this piece of technology in operation. Strategic initiatives and communications. Make council aware for December. The controlled urban hunt ran until mid-December. This year's program included partnership with Feed Nova Scotia, Dalhousie University, Millbrook First Nation, Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. A total of 38 deer were harvested during the hunt. A meeting with the town's Deer Coordinator is planned in January to debrief the 2024 program. The town is also working with the Housing University to plan a public information session in January or February, and more information to follow. And Dalhousie did reach out last week on that, and we are putting together a program and trying to get everybody involved. And we'll brief council on that date, and plan is to include the Millbrook Council as well too, because they are interested. And certainly we can put an invitation out to Colchester Council as well to see if they would like to attend. Equity and anti-racism strategy under the Nova Scotia Dismantling Racism and Hate Act. Municipalities and villages across Nova Scotia are required to develop an equity and anti-racism strategy by the 1st of April 2025. Partners at the County of Colchester, Village of Bible Hill, and Town of Stewiacke have agreed to a regional approach of this strategy for this strategy. So we hired or awarded a contract to WTC, which stands for Wake the Unconscious, and the contract was awarded in early January, and they'll help facilitate the completion of the strategy for all of the communities involved. Public transportation, the town and county are in the process of developing the regional public transportation feasibility plan. Arcadis was hired in early January to help facilitate this plan. A project steering committee has been invited to provide oversight and guidance to this plan, and the plan is expected to be completed by the end of June 2025. So again, just making council aware that consultancy has been awarded. And then major communications projects. So we are doing an article with Business View magazine. And in fact, we're doing the interview tomorrow, the mayor and I, and Ms. Grant. So we're just talking about the, just the current business environment within Truro. This is similar to an interview that we've done in previous years. So again, we're just going through some of to make everybody aware that Truro is certainly open for business, and looking at all the good things we're doing. And again, Truro's, from a perspective of celebrating the town's 150th anniversary is this year, and staff have been working with the 150th anniversary committee working group to finalize a brand and logo to celebrate and promote the 150th anniversary. And throughout the year, communication staff will promote the anniversary on social media, town's website, and local media. Additional activities and events are being planned through the working group, and certainly for the public, we want anybody that has an idea to bring it to the working group for development, and certainly we'd like to get everybody's participation. And council should be aware, I think if you've been watching social media, that Mayor Hinton's doing a regular monthly video message, and staff are working with her to develop they developed a short holiday message video, which appeared on Eastlink TV and social media, and we're also working to develop from the Mayor's Desk video, which highlights key initiative events and community highlights, and that took place in November, and we're going to do those on a regular basis just to inform the community on what's going on. And again, our social media has been very active. Again, through social media, we've gotten, and I think Mr. McKinnon might talk about it as well, we've gotten some really good feedback on the roundabout, and just how people have been very pleased with the project and how well it's working out for them. So again, we're working through the social media issues, and again, being proactive with that. So that is my report, Madam Mayor, respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolder. Excellent report. I also want to welcome Ms. Russell to the box, and we're happy to have you and look forward to your report next month. Any questions for Mr. Dolder? Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. Through you to Mr. Dolter. The technology is going to be used to burn the brush up at the park. What can you tell me a little more about that and what it's all about?
So it's essentially a large container that uses an air curtain, which basically covers the burn with an air separation, so that any of the particulate or any of the smoke that you typically see off a major burn doesn't actually go into the atmosphere. And again, if from the video that we watched, because of the heat that the material is burnt at, it leaves a very little debris behind. So it would enable us, again, it comes at a fairly, it's costly, but it would enable us to take care of the burn pile and then have a bit of residue that would be left over that could be easily disposed or used of in the local area. So again, it would be a way to, in a fairly quick order, to be able to eliminate the debris pile. Now, we're just debating whether or not that's the direction we want to go, or whether or not there's other options out there, such as simple grinding system or something like that. So it's just one of the things we're going to assess, and we'll kind of we'll lay the options out before council, and to get their input on where they want us to go
Is
with
it
it.
something we would purchase, or?
No, it would be a contract. It's a contracted service, so we could. So the contractor that's got this kind of has exclusive rights to the technology.
Oh, okay.
So we would pay them to do it, because one of the issues with it is once it goes up to temperature, it has to stay going, so they would burn 24/7.
Oh, wow.
But again, it's been done in a number of jurisdictions, and we haven't heard any negative issues about it, but we are going to check up on those. Those have mostly been around the CBRM area. So we're going to follow up with CBRM just to make sure that they were fully satisfied with it. But again, I think we got to assess it against overall costs and our long-term needs. So again, there's still a lot of work to be done on it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fleming. Councillor Talbot, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Two things. I got a call from Preston Mulligan from the CBC wanting to interview me with respect renaming the TAC grounds. I don't feel that's my role. I think we agreed that the mayor would be the spokesperson, so I will pass that message along to the mayor.
Thank you.
And the second thing I wanted to discuss, I want to know if council fully understands the decision that was taken around this. There seemed to be some confusion last week and some exchange of emails, so I just want to make sure that people, I want to know what the understanding is.
I think, Councillor Talbot, I hope that I clarified the situation with council, and I think there was a process that was followed. Certainly when the national announcement was made on the 9th of July 2022, it was done so with, with the support and recognition of council for the initiative that was brought forward. Again, I know that there seems to be some members of the public that were not aware of this decision, but again, we've been very public with it, and it was certainly national news as well. We've been talking for months about the renaming, and again, when we've been looking at a sponsorship, certainly everybody was aware that that the complex itself would be named after the battalion, which again doesn't apply to the baseball field because that will be now a separate facility, but that certainly was the understanding, as far as I know, and the vote that council brought forward. So again, I don't know if anybody needs any further clarification than that.
Thank you very much, Councillor Talbot, and we'll talk afterwards about that call. Deputy Mayor?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Mayor. I have a question, or just to ask that some consideration be given to testing the residue after the burn. I'm quite familiar with the land application of municipal ash, and it depends on the municipality, where the trees were grown, et cetera, the heavy metal content. And so it's an area of a little bit of a specialty in my career. And so I just think it's necessary to test the ash in order to understand the heavy metal content or any other. There are Canadian municipal standards in regards to this, so they just need to be adhered to. And I'd be interested in, just out of interest, just to see the level of heavy metals in the ash and what it's done. If they're cleared from the site, that's one thing, but if they're left, I think it needs to be understood.
I know, and with combustion of woods and that, zinc is an issue as well too. So I mean, that's something that we would certainly do. And given the current contents of the debris pile is very mixed. So again, we certainly would want to go through whatever precautions we needed to go through to make sure that it's environmentally safe to distribute it in the area if that was the decision to go that way.
Okay, thank you. And I have another question. It has to do with the Argus Street ball field. That's a fine name, if that's going to be its name, but will there also be a competition or some sort of renaming of that new field, other than that it's on Argus Street?
We are hoping that somebody will pay for the naming rights, to be honest,
Oh,
Counselor.
there we go. That's
So
a wonderful idea.
So we are for sale as far as the name goes, and you will get to name the field for a cool $250,000.
I can assure you it will not be called the Thomas Ball Field.
Well, that's disappointing. Counselor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The ball field's not likely to be renamed the McGrath Ball Field either, unfortunately. Great news, Mr. Dolter, about the public transportation feasibility plan moving forward. On the debris pile, again, you mentioned that this has to burn at quite a high temperature and remain there. That sounds awfully energy intensive, and especially when we're talking about burning, essentially biomass here. And we just passed a motion for climate-ready plans and processes. Are we weighing into the into our emissions and our climate readiness the fact that we might be burning all of this biomass rather than chipping it and using it for other purposes?
That very thought had crossed staff's mind. Again, that one of the reasons we want to see this is because we're told the emissions that come off this because of the air curtain and the temperature are minimal compared to compared to other processes. So again, that's something we need to evaluate. We're not committed to anything other than to observe and see some of the data that comes off this. And again, I think we're looking at the and having that option going into the foreseeable future. Clearly, with Victoria Park, we'll always be in a position where we require to chip trees because of deadfall and everything else. So again, we need to evaluate on what's the best for the town in the longer term, and if this is and this solution comes at a cost, as does acquiring of a chipper as well too. So we're going to do a full evaluation and put that before council before within a capital plan, however we decide to go forward, or council decides for us to go forward.
Okay, thank you, sir. And then just back to the, what I'm going to for now call the number 2 Construction Battalion commemoration. I was one of those ones that Councillor Talbot referenced who did not, or had a different understanding, but I don't even know if it was cleared up here based on what I saw in the email. So if I could just recall that there was a recommendation from the ANSCSC committee to rename it in memorial of the number 2 Construction Battalion commemoration, but it wasn't to call it that field. It would just be renamed to commemorate that battalion, but a name had not yet been chosen, and that is why we are going with this contest.
Yes, correct. And at the end of the day, I mean, the naming contest is ongoing, but council votes and decides on the final name of the field, which council is committed to making it in commemoration of number 2. But no, the name itself, what that name would be, had not been finalized now.
Okay, perfect. And just for the record, I do support that. I think that's a wonderful thing. I know I saw some comments about erasing the history of the TAC grounds, and I don't think that's true at all. I mean, this building that we're in is currently Town Hall, was once the federal building, and there are still people who refer to it as the federal building. We don't erase the history, we just recognize it differently.
Yeah, and further on the agenda, Ms. Grant is going to go through the what the renaming, the commemoration is going to look like based on the current plan, so we can answer any questions there on basically what we're doing for the history of the TAC grounds as part of that presentation.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor McGrath. Seeing no further questions, I do want to just another reminder that our grant applications are due in, correct, by the 31st of this month, Mr. Dolter?
Correct.
Okay, great. Our second report is corporate services. I think this could be your swan song.
This is my last time I'm going to have to do this.
Okay, just
I don't mind a bit.
away and
So again, so this is the corporate service report for the period ending 30th November 2024. So the attached statements that were provided to council provides an overview of our financial position as of the end of November 2024. So as in previous reports, the tax revenue is fully billed for this year. So it stands at 100% as the second billing went out in September. As expected, detransfer tax is now 123% of what we had budgeted for, which is good news. Obviously difficult to budget for because of, we never know how property sales are going to go through the year. And in some cases, we have some large properties that change hands with the recent sale of the Glengarry is a good example. Our federal grants in lieu have been received. However, we're still waiting on our provincial grant. Revenue for services to other municipalities continues to flow based on our billings. Revenue from services offered remains strong with the stadium now open. So revenue will now start flowing into that account, and it's good to see the facility in operation. Higher interest rates continue to show a benefit with earnings at 172% of budget. Government transfers are consistent with billings except for the other account, which reflects additional unbudgeted grants that were applied for and received this year. So our total revenue to the end of November is 37.76 million, or 94% of the annual budget. From an expense perspective, all departments have are tracking on budget at around 67%, which is the expectation for this point in the fiscal year. Under legislative and other expense accounts is slightly over budget because of the retirement expenses for Mayor Mills's send-off. Now, again, that's a fairly small budget, but just wanted to bring that to council's attention. General administration continues to be slightly higher at 76% as it carries a significant portion of the insurance costs. It is reduced from previous reports, however, because the applicable allocations to the appropriate departments were made for some of those insurance costs in the month of December, or in the month of November, sorry. Regional events reflects the commitment to the rec for the Nova Scotia Stampede. That invoice was paid. Other expenses under corporate reflect the payment of the full amount of our finance software bill. Fire services is at 77% due to the payment of water utility, and all other accounts are in line. Within public service budget, streets and sidewalks are now at 97%, reflecting expenditures during construction season, the annual gravel requirements, and the increased cost of traffic control. When we get into the budget process, this account is going to be examined to ensure that we do have it adequately funded. Overall, Public Works is on budget. Parks and Recreation is showing higher percentage expenditures in seasonal accounts related to summer activities, and the advance payment of the last quarter of the rec grant, and council did approve that advance, and it's now reflected in the budget. Year to date, our expenses sit at $24.18 million, or 64% of the annual expense budget. So overall, we continue to operate well within in budget and along our expenditure revenue trajectory. Information technology, the IT section continues to support internal IT needs. The replacement of the council chambers audio and camera system has been completed. There are still some minor issues outstanding that are being dealt with by the department. The section supported the upgrade to the Diamond accounting software for the town and the rec over the period. And they continue to work on IT requirements for the overall TAC grounds development. There's some delays there because of delays with the contractor, but the baseball field system should be in the next little while. And the replacement of personal computers is about 80% complete at this point. I think most of the cell phones that were required to be replaced are now replaced. And again, that is my report, Madam Mayor, unless there's any questions.
Thank you very much, and I just want to say thanks to the IT department. They've been fantastic to me since I took office. Councillor Fleming, you're up first.
It's still green, my fault.
He flicked it off.
Oh, we took it off. Okay, thank you. Councillor Graham.
No,
Oh,
Fleming.
Oh, are you still? I thought you said you made it. You hit it by
no,
mistake.
no, you don't.
Okay,
No, he
you're
turned it
still
off.
green.
He turned it off
Oh,
by
there we
mistake.
go. Okay,
Sorry.
Councillor Fleming. There we go.
Okay, got it, thank you. I've been watching Counselor Thomas too much. He's always pushing the button at the wrong time as well. Not even paying any attention to me. The Nova Scotia Rodeo. I wonder why, my question is, I guess, the regional events, for the Nova Scotia Stampede, 75,000, why is not on the rec line, and why is it in general
Well, because it was,
administration?
because it was set as it's, under general administration, there is an events budget line.
Okay.
So that's typically what we'd fund some of the, the under 18 hockey, things like that in the past. It's always been an events line, so that was budgeted separately, so it's not part of the grant funding that flows to the rec. So that's it's just a separate budget line.
Just to follow up on that, do we have any idea how they financially made out with the Stampede?
We do have a preliminary number. I think the total profit is around the $50,000 level.
Oh, excellent.
So overall, again, I think they're waiting on final invoicing to come in, but that likely will be the final number.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
For a first-year event, that's a good outcome for sure. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Graham?
3 questions. The first for our Public Works Department. Could you remind me once again what services we bill for and to whom? I see that we have revenue in excess of 59% of what was anticipated.
Oh, yeah. There we go.
Yes, that is usually just the, when we have to charge for replacing sewer laterals. That's our main source of revenue, and that is totally unpredictable at the beginning of the year.
Okay. I remember. Thank you for the reminder there. The other 2 questions that I had, under other revenue, there's a line, again, coming in at 56% over what we expected in the miscellaneous line, Mr. Dalter. I was wondering what items come under miscellaneous, both there, and there's another one, I wondered, I think you attributed, it's under government transfers, and it's under other, and we're at 359%. You indicated that that was for grants.
So those are grants that came in after we had set the budget. So again, in case people aren't aware, the budget total for that was 35,700. Current, the actual is 128,000. So there was a number of grants that came up after the budget had been finalized that we were able to apply for and we successfully got. One of them was for policing, I think was a fairly significant one. Again, so those are just items that we would not have been aware of prior to the start of the fiscal year, and they are considered government transfers or government funds, right? So
Yeah, that was where my confusion lies. They're not really transfers, and I think they should be maybe identified as grants rather than transfers.
Well, the difference is the reason they're transfers, in most cases, they're operational in nature, so they're funding operations. So they're given to us to fund our day operations. A lot of our other grants are used to, some in capital, but again, it's no different than municipal capacity grant. That's a grant or an equalization payment that comes in. Police protection is, again, that's the boots on the street funding that we get. So it is, that is the appropriate location for it. It's a transfer from government or government. That's the word we use for government funding, or it's transferred from government to us.
So when I think of the Municipal Financial Capacity Fund, when we are building our budget for the upcoming year, we have a good idea, based on history, what that's going to look like.
Yep.
Can we now add another line that we are going to be able to budget and plan for at the amount of 35,000 now in those transfers too? Will those be ongoing transfers?
So many of these are one-time transfers too.
Oh,
so
they are.
We may not get, that's why they're in other, because they're not considered recurring. So if we would set up a separate budget line if we're going to get it every year. And that's, the example of that is the police protection one, which is the additional officer program. That's an annual amount that we get every year, so there's a separate line for it. So the others are individual amounts that may be transferred, but typically they'll be one time. If they prove to be not a one-time grant, we provide a separate line for them
Okay.
to identify them as ongoing.
The last was under other revenue miscellaneous. We came in at 56% more than anticipated. Just wondering what items would be there.
Again, it's a fairly small budget, so, again, I'd have to look back at that. Again, I don't have it separate. I can report that back after. I don't have that particular item because, again, it was so small.
Yeah, I understand that.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. A question about the insurance. We keep talking about the stadium, and I know we, as a council, we have funded some initiatives that we were hoping would be covered by insurance, and we funded them in order to make sure that the stadium opened. How are we making out with this insurance repayment?
I will know towards the end of the month. The contractor was given an extension to the end of January to have all the final paperwork in. So I am actively monitoring that and have been talking to the insurance company on a regular basis. My understanding is that information has been flowing to them. So the only concern is to find out what exactly they're going to determine is covered by insurance and what will be our own expense. In cases where we're in jeopardy of having to pay for it ourselves is where they see it as an upgrade that falls outside of what would be required by changes to the building code. So that, and we don't think there should be much of that. But again, we need to get their final determination. So I will be checking even this week back with the insurance company to see where things stand and see if we can get a preliminary determination on where we are.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Deputy Mayor Thomas?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor. I would just like to ask about under grants. I don't know if this is appropriate to ask it right now, but the TAC grounds and the capital budget for the tax grounds, TAC ground and also the ball field, 9.7 million, and I recognize that the majority of that money came from federal provincial grants plus gifts of individuals, et cetera, which we're all very thankful for, that the majority of the funding was funded outside of town coffers. But what I'm looking for is a more detailed, financial report on that particular project. It's such a large project, at 9.7 million. I would like to, is that possible to get that report?
It will, yeah, we do. We're actually working on that right now to have a full scope of what's where. Obviously, with a project of this size, there are change orders and everything else we're just going through. And again, some of the billings just coming through. So we're doing a full assessment, and we'll have a report ready for council probably around the time that, our first meeting with council for budget. But we'll do a full review of that at that time, because I want to make sure we capture everything and that we have a good view of where we are. And again, I need to talk as well to the fundraising people as well, because again, there is no doubt we'll need some additional fundraising to be done so that the town doesn't end up picking up any excessive additional amounts. So, but we are working through that, and there are some change orders that have come in as a result of different circumstances that have, just because of unseen requirements for the facility.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Dolter.
And Deputy Mayor, I just asked the same question this morning to Mr. Dolter. We had that conversation, so he's on top of that. Seeing no more questions on the report from Mr. Dolter for corporate services, we are now going to move on to fire services. Chief Blois Curry. Chief.
Red.
I think we killed it again.
We received 104 alarms. We had 3 structure fires, 1 campfire, 2 door breaches, 16 fire alarms, 68 medical calls, 8 motor vehicle collisions, 2 elevator entrapments, 2 power lines on fire, transformers, and 2 mutual aid calls. The fire inspector for the month did 6 inspections, 6 follow-up inspections, 1 fire investigation, 2 fire drills, 1 public education talk, 1 alcohol and gaming inspection, and 2 orders to take action. He also attended the fall conference for the Fire Inspectors Association in Nova Scotia and Halifax, where he facilitated the level 1 education session for the week. He's continuing to do investigation refresher training, and he's focusing on year-end inspections, file maintenance, and administrative planning for 2025. Training for the month was roof ladder reviews, vertical ventilation, and tick and gas detector review, and that's thermal imaging camera for the TIC. respectfully submit it.
Thank you, Chief, and unfortunately, our new year didn't start off great. Several hours after we celebrated New Year's, we had that terrible fire on Arthur Street, and our hearts go out to everybody who was involved in that, and our sincere appreciation to the dedicated firefighters who I saw some of the pictures, and it was the look on their faces said it all, so we're certainly so appreciative.
Thank you, and I'll make sure I pass that along.
Thank you very much. Councillor Graham?
I hear a lot of conversations out in the community regarding the encampment that's up behind Frenchie's. Does our fire department have responsibility to that encampment at all?
No, that's outside of our jurisdiction, outside of our line. That would be Cobequid's area, I believe, so that's more along the lines of Colchester as it is to town of Truro.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pryor?
Chief, is there currently only one fire inspector at the town of Truro?
Yes, currently we have one fire inspector on staff that does our investigations and our building inspections.
Thank you. You look busy.
We're all busy.
Thank you, Chief. Seeing no further questions, we're going to move, oh, I do, I see Councillor, Deputy Mayor, you're lit up.
Yeah, just in response to that encampment behind Frenchie's, I was asked to attend a meeting of the marsh body, and I've been on that committee for 4 years, but it's the first time I attended a meeting. And their concern was about that encampment. And so the fire department, their fire department gave a report on it, and they're concerned about needles and other things there. They're all very concerned about it. It's illegal to have anything but agricultural activity on the marsh body, where that's located. So there's an effort there to contact the provincial government to deal with that situation. There's a fine involved with encamping on that body, and even a prison sentence if not followed. So it's strict, and so that should just be a warning that things will change if that is in fact applied. That restriction is applied. Just for knowledge. That's all.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seeing no further questions, we're now going to move on to Planning and Development. And Director Fox, your report, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So this is the Planning and Development Report for December 2024. In terms of projects we were working on, I have one project listed there, the follow-up review housekeeping amendments. Staff are currently working on a series of housekeeping amendments to correct minor errors and omissions in the town's new community plan. These amendments were reviewed by the Planning Advisory Committee at their November meeting and will be presented at a public information meeting which is scheduled for Monday, January 27th from 5, I believe that should say to 6 p.m. In the Town Council chambers. Planning applications, we have 5 applications on the books here. We have one at 656 Yonge Street, one at 60 Juniper, one at Rexdale Ford and Marshland, one at 67 Inglis, and one at 60 Gulf Street. We have 2 site plan approval applications, one at 45 Duke and one at 161 McLean. Building statistics for the month of December 2023, we were at $40,277,065. For December 2024, we are at $36,731,224. In terms of bylaw enforcement, active violations by property, that should say for the month of December 2024, there were 55 active files and 30 of those have been resolved, respectfully submitted.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. I see that Councillor Fleming, you have a question.
Thank you, Mary. Through you to Mr. Fox. 60 Gulf Street, is that the same one that was there before, or?
The application has been modified. It's some substantial changes to the submission. It's still for a very similar size building, but there's more surface parking, and the building's changed its location on the property. It's not any higher. I think the other big change was that there's only 1 level of underground parking and not 2.
Okay, so do they have to go through all the steps, or can they?
They do, yeah. Because of the changes were so significant that just because of the increased surface parking area, for example, that's a real change to the landscaping and the layout of on the site. So that was enough to warrant going back.
And is this the same company, Tier 2, are the ones who got the development agreement at first?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that the mall had bought the
I
bought
think
it,
the
but
mall is, and the people who own the mall are somehow also tied into Tier 2, if I'm not
Okay,
mistaken.
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Fox, just on 60 Juniper, I assume that this report was provided prior to the news we got this morning that development has been withdrawn. Says here step 3 of 5. Obviously, if it's been withdrawn, it is not. Have they, just out of curiosity, have they submitted a new one to be at step 1, or are we expecting them to apply something for a step 1?
No, and you are correct. This report was prepared before they did withdraw, so that application isn't there. That's correct. They are not, there is no indication from them that they're going to be making a new application, and if they did make a new application, they would be at step 1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Counselor? I can't believe there's only 2 questions today, Mr. Fox. It's a new year. Thank you very much. Next up is our Truro Police Service Report. Chief Dave McNeil. Chief?
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. December's report is as follows. We had 36 traffic collisions. We issued 179 motor vehicle accident and offense tickets, conducted 43 road safety check stops. A lot of those were done over the Christmas season. 33 noise and animal bylaw type complaints, 4 impaired driving investigations, 2 drug investigations, 97 other calls for other provincial statutes like Liquor Control Act and the Trespass Act, 65 mental health well-being calls, 29 failed to comply with conditions for court orders, 8 crimes against persons, 14 assaults, 50 thefts, 21 mischief or damage to property disturbance calls, 5 fraud or forgery investigations, 68 suspicious person or vehicle calls, 38 alarms, and 120 other calls for general police assistance, for a total of 812 calls for the month, with 216 resulting in charges. There were 172 parking tickets issued. Majority of those are for the winter ban parking that came into effect in December. And there was also 35 speeding tickets issued on several streets in the municipality. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much, Chief, for your report. Counselor Graham?
I ask the same question every month. Maybe it should just be part of your report, I don't know, but only because being police chief, you seem to have the most accurate information. While it does seem very difficult to track, I do understand that. And it's with regard to our homeless people in our community. Just wondering, as you look at the numbers now, how's it looking? I believe you reported that in your best estimate, there were 10 or 12 people living rough last month. How are we doing now? And how is your relationship with our the Outreach Society evolving? Have you seen improvements in the number of mental health calls that you're responding to because of the 2 outreach people that they hired maybe 3 or 4 months ago now?
That's a lot of questions. I'll try my best to answer them. Yeah, so I guess the current state of homelessness, there are homeless people, obviously. Shelter is at full capacity. The winter shelter that they brought on last month, I guess, is probably making a difference as well. Big change for us is the encampment is not in Truro, so it's in the county. That's been great for us, I won't lie. It's a lot of people that are at the encampment are people that aren't compatible at the shelter. So they're people with high needs and they have a lot of issues. Therefore, they cause a lot of grief in the community. But they're outside the community right now, so it's probably been good for us that way. So yeah, our relationship with the shelter remains strong, and we have a good partnership. We talk back and forth, and things seem pretty good.
Do you have an estimate about at this time how many might be living rough in Truro? Or have they all?
I think majority of people have located to the encampment in Lower Truro.
Okay.
It's kind of been a spot where they have their own little sense of community down there, and they're all kind of cohabitating and doing their thing there. So to say we have active encampments in town limits, there may be a few people off the grid somewhere, but I would suggest to you the majority of people that we were dealing with on a regular basis are now residing at the encampment in Lower Truro.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, I think my question is for the CAO. Like, this is a very, very difficult issue. You know, charged with, we have mental health issues, we have substance abuse issues, we have citizens have rights and expectation to be safe. Also, there has to be a degree of thought given to the people in the situation. Like, some of them don't want to be there with the mental health, some of them don't want to be off the street, but I'm not sure that the town has a policy on how we're dealing with this. I'd just like a little clarification on that.
Yeah, again, I mean, I think council's aware that we met recently, early part of December, I guess, with a lot of the groups that are responsible for providing some of the social supports. Our policy, unwritten, I mean, again, it's something, if council wants to make it a written policy, is to work with those community support organizations and try to work as a facilitator to make sure everybody's communicating, and certainly advocate to the province on providing the supportive housing that's needed. I know that's something we've had, very recent communications on certainly with our MLA as well. And the police do their thing on an active basis, dealing with the population on a day-to-day basis. So, again, until such time as we get different direction, I mean, we're not directly involved, but we're playing a support role where we see it's appropriate. I guess that's the clearest, vaguest thing I can say, and to some extent. I mean, again, we're certainly working with the shelter, and as council knows, we give them a tax break and everything else so that they can operate as best as they can. We exempt them from property tax, and we're paying for garbage pickup this year. So again, that's, some of the steps that we're able to take to support their operation.
I guess the confusion I have is that the general response is that, it's through the housing and affordable housing and that. And as you know, we're not funded to do that type of work, but people will throw that out as a solution. And I'm not so sure. I mean, that might be part of the solution, but it seems to be every time you talk to someone, that is the solution, more affordable housing. But I guess I don't accept that.
Well, I think to that point, I mean, I think when council's talked about it before, I mean, the whole issue of mental health and addiction services is a big part of the solution, which again, the province has a direct role in playing. And that's some of the conversations I think council needs to continue to have with the provincial government.
Thank you. I just want to say that we did have a meeting on December the 4th in my office. I called that meeting, and we had a lot of the key players, including the chief there, Mayor Blair and her CAO, my CAO, Mike Dolter, and Matt Forrest from Souls Harbor, and members of the staff from the Truro Housing Outreach Society. And we're having another meeting on the 4th. We discussed our common goals and the challenges that the town and the county are facing at this time with encampments and some issues that have popped up with the shelter. I'm in regular contact with Matt Forrest from the Connection Church at 38 Pleasant Street, and that has not been to capacity yet. I speak to him every few days. The shelter on Arthur Street is at full capacity. So we're continuing to work with these individuals and to deal with issues that are come up. We want the community to feel safe as well. There's been issues identified that on Arthur Street that we've dealt with, and I think they were very open to understanding and listening. And we all want people to be safe and have a roof over their head, that's for sure. Further on housing, with Mr. Dolter, we met with Diane Kelderman, Jeff Yule, and Alex from Cooperative Housing. We've met with MLA Ritzy, and we've got a meeting with MP Ellis coming up. So housing is a priority for us. The council's identified it as a priority. Even though we don't have the funding for it, we are looking at routes and alternatives to try to all work together to try to get some sort of grasp on this situation. So I just wanted to bring that forward, that we're working on, we're doing whatever we can to try to, cooperative housing, from my background in housing, is very positive, and it works. and I'm hoping that that comes forward. So, Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you for that update on the meeting that you had in December. It certainly sounds like lots of positives hopefully going to come out of that, and there's a lot of work being done. Chief, I just wanted to come back to you. It wasn't part of your report, but it was part of the questions asked. The encampment, I believe this is the end of Meadow Drive. I don't do a lot of shopping, but I think that's where this encampment is, correct? You said something really important there, that they have their own sense of community there. They're looking after each other. The issues within Truro have gone down. I don't know if you can speak to it, but I assume overall issues have gone down in the area, out in the county, because these folks have a sense of community and are looking after each other. It's an assumption, I know, but
that's a pretty general view of things. I think what my comment was is we don't have those folks hanging around sleeping in our jurisdiction because now they've relocated down there. They do have a sense of community. Anytime I have dropped by there, talked to some of the people there, I mean, they're looking after each other the best they can. But I would suggest if you pulled some of the businesses along the lower end of Roby Street, in the vicinity of the Circle K and the Giant Tiger and Sobeys and those places, I think they've inherited some of the problems we were experiencing. So I think I think some of the issues aren't cured because they're down there. I think the issues have just moved to outside of our jurisdiction, if you will.
right. But that's kind of going where I'm going, actually, is that is still an issue. Just because we're not seeing them in Truro doesn't mean that the issue has gone away.
Correct. Yeah.
And I agree, it's great that we're working with MLA Ritzy and all the other players, working with, Haven House, et cetera, trying to get addiction services, but it is complex, as we've discussed many times before. And, getting the affordable housing, yes, that is going to be a key. If we get more unaffordable housing, we're going to end up with more people who are going to be unhoused because they can't afford it simply. But I wanted to just caution people. I mean, these people are out there, they're looking after themselves the best as they can, Chief, as you say, use your words. They're looking after themselves the best that they can, doing the best they can in their situation. And further criminalizing this is not going to help them. I mean, there was a mention earlier of illegal usage of that land. I had been told before that Meadow Drive encampment was private land and that the owner had granted them that ability. And if anybody's going after the land use in order to just move these people again who are just doing the best they can, I mean, I would urge those people to not, reach out a hand to help instead of trying to push people further down. That's all I have to say on that matter. We really have to look after ourselves, everybody.
Thank you, Councillor. Public Works. I got to get you faster on that button.
I'd just
Deputy Mayor, yeah.
I'd just like to say that the people that are concerned about the encampment on the marshlands have empathy and compassion for these people. They're very concerned. It's agricultural land. They're very concerned about debris. This land often floods in the spring floods, and debris moving down onto their hayland and cropland and causing problems in animal feed, etc. And so it's a legitimate concern of theirs. I was at the meeting. Nobody else was there from here, and I can tell you that they have empathy and compassion for these people. And to say otherwise is wrong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Public Works report. Andrew McKinnon, you are up.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, attached is the Public Works monthly report for December 2024. Engineering summary. During the month of December, the Public Works staff continued working on asset management projects as well as preparing asset management presentations that will be presented to Town Council. As reported last month, Weeks Construction completed the roundabout project save for the installation of streetlights. The street lighting is now all complete, and our office has been receiving a number of calls from the public stating how much better the intersection is now performing. Staff met with Harborside Engineering and gave our final comments back for Harborside to complete their final draft of the active transportation plan. Dexter Construction completed the first phase of the Willow Street Sidewalk project that is scheduled for full completion in September of 25. Public Works summary, transportation crews were geared up fully for winter operation and commenced snow and ice operations on a regular basis, including a minor snowstorm that lasted through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and performed some winter street patching work. They also continue with sign maintenance, shop maintenance, and equipment maintenance. Environmental services crews continue with water and sewer maintenance activities, which included hydrant maintenance, catch basin, manhole maintenance, and pump maintenance. And crews also repaired 4 water main breaks and 1 plug sewer. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much for a report. Questions for Director McKinnon? Councillor Graham.
I always mix up Longworth and Patillo. Which is the one that connects Prince and Roby? Is it Longworth? Yeah. Longworth. So there's 5 new homes that have recently been built on Longworth. Parking is becoming a little bit of an issue on that street. We've had conversations with the police chief, who indicated that if there are cars parked illegally, to notify the police, which residents are happy to do. But I was wondering what the regulations are, or the process is, to have cars designated parking just on one side of that street. Would that be an appropriate solution? And is that under your jurisdiction even?
Yes, that would be under our jurisdiction. Have to review it to see what sort of issues there are, and whether the street is wide enough and calm enough for traffic volumes to enable parking on both sides. And if it is suitable for parking on both sides and somebody just parks illegally and blocking someone's driveway, that's a separate issue altogether, and they can be that can be dealt with as it occurs.
Okay. So is that something that your department has the time and capacity
Yes.
to maybe look at in
Yes,
the near
we will
future?
review that, yes.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, Andrew, I did receive a few complaints about the damage to the sod at the roundabout. Now, obviously, we're not going to be able to fix that until the spring, but I'm just curious, do we know the cause of the damage?
I'm not sure, but I believe it might have been utility crews that were working on the lines there that purposely drove on the sod when it was soft. So right now it's listed as a deficiency for the contractor to look after in the spring, but it won't be, like you say, it won't be done during the winter.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you to Mr. McKinnon, I wanted to pass on some positive feedback that I've heard from many people about the light signal changes at Prince and Walker and a couple of other spots throughout town. Just the increased safety there for pedestrians and motorists. You don't have pedestrians out in the middle of a crosswalk with motorists trying to, you know, catch that last advanced green, and the advanced green for the pedestrian signal as well when all motorists are stopped. Both you know, pedestrians and motorists, I've heard from both about how much better they believe these intersections are, much less stressful. So on behalf of them, kudos to you and your department for those changes, and we look forward to hopefully more of those changes coming soon. With regard to road safety, I just want to run back to the chief's report and the 26 traffic collisions. Now, I think I also ask this question, maybe not every month, but quite often. Is your department looking at the locations of these collisions? Are we identifying, like we did with the roundabout, are we identifying places that need remediation in order to make them safer?
These aren't records that I have no idea what type of accidents they are. I mean, it could be just people with summer tires on. I have no idea.
Well, I haven't done the math, but roughly speaking, it's about 30-odd collisions per month that we in council hear about in these chambers. 19 reportable sounds like more serious collisions. Perhaps your department could reach out to the chief, or the chief could reach out and provide that information, because I really think looking after, you know, if this is happening at the same places repeatedly, that's something that maybe we should be investigating.
Yep. Okay.
I think the chief wants to.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So majority of those collisions, when you strip them down, reportable collision in Nova Scotia is $2,000 worth of damage or an injury. So it takes minimal damage to have a reportable accident in Nova Scotia. A bumper cover is $1,700. So most of these collisions, probably at that time of year in December, are occurring in parking lots like Walmart, Superstore, the mall. A lot of those are those, so somebody could come out and their fender's damaged or whatever from a car that was pulling into the parking space. So anytime that we have serious collisions at an intersection repeatedly, that's something that we discuss with our colleagues at Public Works. So nothing happens in isolation. I'm not going to sit in my office with all kinds of data on an intersection that we have determined is dangerous to severe collisions and not share it with engineering. So that happens on a regular basis. But the majority of the collisions in the town of Truro, with the speeds the way they are, we're not having a lot of injury or fatality accidents because the speeds are such that people don't, get up to those kind of speeds where there's severe collisions. So, so don't let the reportability of the collision skew the statistics. So it's only $2,000 in damage, and that's nothing today. And conversely, there were 16 non-reportable. So those are collisions that happened where there's not even $2,000 worth of damage. So, and 36 is high for a month, but the majority of those, it was the Christmas season. And if any of you were around Truro at the end of December, the traffic volume is through the roof with everybody shopping, everybody's in a rush, and the malls and the parking lots are full. So that's probably a bit of a outlier for our monthly collision statistics. So I don't know if that helps or not, but rest assured that if we do have collisions that are high collision areas with high property damage or injury, we definitely let Public Works know, and we work together to make remedy of those.
That does answer my question. It makes me a lot happier. Thank you, Chief. Although I do have to question about the, you say the speeding is not an issue, but there were 35 speeding offense tickets handed out, and most studies would suggest that the volume of speeding tickets handed out is probably about 10% of the actual speeders that are not caught. Anyway, I'll end there. Thank you.
It's not like we're on 100 Street Highway, we're speeding at 110.
Yeah.
Collision on 110 highway where people go 120, 125, you're gonna get serious injury, death, or serious damage. So the speeds aren't as, I guess, as a causation to the collisions as they are on a highway, let's say. So that's all I meant by that.
Right. My point just that in, people who are speeding in a 50 zone doing 80 are approaching near highway speeds. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chief, for your report. Thank you, councillors, for your questions. Our final committee report is Parks, Recreation, and Culture. Our director, Ashley Sims, is not with us today, and graciously joining us is Joel Daw. So, Mr. Daw, if you'd like to prepare that report and read it, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We're pleased to welcome Megan McEachran to our department. Megan will be filling the active community coordinator maternity leave position for the next 12 months. She brings extensive knowledge and enthusiasm to support our community's recreation facility activity needs. The general maintenance continues throughout downtown parks, fields, and trails. We remind the public to prepare for winter conditions, including slippery trails. Preparations are underway for Civic Square at the installation of the Caldwell Roach Heartland ice surface. Unfortunately, weather has delayed the opening, but we expect to be opening this week. Once opened, users are reminded that this is unsupervised, shared space accommodating individuals of all skill levels, and please be considerate of others and follow the posted rules, including no pucks and hockey sticks. The ice surface can be viewed at the Nova Scotia webcam, Truro Civic Square. I just looked at it just now, and our staff are moving right along with the installation, so it will be done this week. We are once again partnering with Colchester East Hants Library for a skate lending program, allowing residents to borrow skates using their library card. The lending hours are Tuesdays from 5 to 7:30 p.m., Wednesday 5 to 7:30 p.m., Fridays 1 p.m. to 4:30 p.m., and Saturdays 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And again, that's using their library card. The Town of Truro tree inventory is ongoing, and the 2025 street tree planting program is being developed in consultation with our Urban Forest Committee. The program will focus on adding new tree species to enhance diversity while discontinuing underperforming varieties. The Hemlock Willie Adelgid work plan is ongoing. The town arborist will be attending the Atlantic Canada Forest Health Workshop this week. The proposed treatment plan, originally scheduled for presentation this month, has been postponed and will be presented to the Parks, Recreation, and Culture Committee in February. Additionally, Victoria Park slope rehabilitation construction contract has been awarded to Sumata Inc., which with work scheduled for early spring. Programs and special events. The New Year's Eve on the town event was a great success. It featured 2 free swim sessions and 1 hour public skate at Rath Eastlink Community Center, 2 fully attended children's event time slots at the Cougar Dome, 2-hour public skate at the Colchester Legion Stadium, and celebration of fireworks. Our ongoing community drop-in programs remain very popular, with a full list of programs with Town of Truro's website, and that's under the program events visitors. Plans for the Truro Winter Long John Festival are well underway. The Winter Equipment Loan Program, offering cross-country skis and snowshoes, will be ready as soon as the snow arrives. Throughout December, the Town of Truro made an effort to recognize and celebrate important dates within our community. These included Human Rights Week, Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa. Respectfully submitted.
Thank you very much for that report. I just want to say the fireworks were incredible this year, and what an outstanding turnout. And I know everyone's getting excited about the Long John Festival. Well, I have declared at the Mayor Mills' retirement I will not be honoring the Long Johns, but we'll let him leave that with him. Mayor Mills loved wearing his Long Johns, so that will be his little the milestone, so we'll do it that way. Anyway, thank you very much for your report, and we're glad to have you with us today. Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Daw, is it? Sorry, I don't know if we've met before.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pleasure to meet you, sir. Just a quick thanks to your department as well for their help with installing the new bicycle rack at the farmers market. That was something that a citizen brought to me that they wanted to donate, and they couldn't get through the jigs and reels, I guess, of how to get it done. So I appreciate the staff stepping forward to help with that installation, and also looking forward to the ice surface. I was there at the farmers market on the weekend. It seems to be coming along nicely. Really looking forward to that. Just the fireworks, and I know, Madam Mayor, you had just mentioned that you really enjoy the fireworks, and this is nothing on Parks and Rec, but just something I should probably bring up at questions by members, but just something we should really look at limiting the fireworks displays that we do. I mean, the impacts of this is well known, on the environment and on the wildlife, pets. A lot of people, every time there's fireworks, I hear from people about lost pets, even a story about a pet that ran off and was killed as a result of, or allegedly, of the fireworks. Not to put a damper on the report, sir, but I just wanted to bring that up as we were talking about the fireworks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I appreciate your comments, because this is an issue we've heard before. They're upsetting to certain people. I totally appreciate that. I get that. But they did have the fireworks for New Year's, and it was very well attended, and it went off well. And I do appreciate the concerns from others. It does not fall on deaf ears, trust me. Councillor Talbot.
Yes, Joe, I'm not sure if my question is for you or for Tara or for Mike, but I'm just wondering, did we access funding from the Canada Public Transit Fund for our active transportation? And if so, how much?
For the study itself, actually, I think, Allison, you got the number that we accessed for that? I think it was 70.
Yeah, we received funding through the Connect 2 program through the province. We received 75% of funding to complete the implementation study.
See, there's up to $250,000 available, so certainly that's something we should be making application to.
Yeah, there's a couple programs right now for some capital work. So once we get the results of the implementation study back, we'll look at what sort of projects we should be looking at for next year.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilors, are there any further questions on any of the reports presented today? Okay, seeing none, I would now call for a motion to accept all the committee reports. Councillor Fleming, seconded. Councillor Talbot. All in agreement for accepting the reports, say aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Reports accepted. Thank you very much. Now we're moving on to item number 7, questions by members. Councillors, are there any questions by members today? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, I would like a quick discussion about deer control. I know the report came in, it was like 38, I think, harvested animals, which is down from last year. And but I think everyone is aware that the problem persists. And in fact, when I went around and knocked on doors during the election, it was one, if not the main concern of people. And so it's an ongoing concern. And I don't think that we're really solving it, what we're doing. We're certainly taking some animals out from the periphery of the town, but we're not dealing with essentially the real core, no pun intended, issue. I'm just wondering where we can go from here, because I'm just not satisfied with it, and I don't think the people of Truro are satisfied with it, and they want us to find a solution. So it's not an easy discussion, because, you know, we've had this discussion in the past, and where do we go from here? But I would like to suggest, perhaps this is a suggestion, it's not a request even, it's a suggestion, but I would like to meet with the minister for the Department of Natural Resources, Honorable Tony Rushton, and just express our concern, because there is, I believe, a way of harvesting animals from the center of town if given the permit. And so him and also the deputy minister, I think either one or both of them, I think it would be appropriate for us to express our concern either by letter, but I'd rather meet with them in person and them come to town and view the issue. It's a significant issue that's not being dealt with. They're responsible for this, more or less. At least they have the authority, it's my understanding. So I'd like to push this issue, because I was elected on the basis that I would try to do something about it. And I've tried, and everyone here has tried, but we haven't been successful really in dealing with the issue. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mr. Dolter, what do you think about setting something up there?
Yeah, again, we've had, and as the public may be aware, and certainly councils, where we sent a letter to the minister in order to look at some, one site in particular that was in the more in the core area of town. And up to the 11th hour, we thought we were going to get approval, and then it was not given. MLA, now Minister Ritzie, has committed to facilitating a meeting with the minister and making sure the minister is here to view the site that we were talking about. Certainly, I think that's something we need to follow up on. Compared to last year, we took significantly fewer deer. I don't think that's an indication there are fewer deer out there. It just in the areas that we are, there were probably fewer there, because that's again where we've been harvesting year over year. So I guess we'll do a follow-up discussion with Minister Ritzie to facilitate the meeting, and then I think we'll still send a formal request to meet with the minister with council through directly to Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, and request that meeting. And again, we'll go back, refer back to the letter that we sent originally, and express, I guess, to some degree, which I think we did in the original letter, our frustration with we're doing a lot of work, putting a lot of resources towards this, and having minimal effect, because again, we know we're not in the areas that need to be dealt with.
Correct.
Yeah.
So it's either we change tactics and how we're doing the harvesting or removal of deer, or we keep the what we have now, which seems to be working and seems to be safe when properly applied, and we just need ministerial approval. That's my understanding, and so we need to seek that. And I don't want to see the member come to chamber here or anything. I think in-field meeting would be appropriate with any counselors that want to participate, plus the mayor and plus, people on the committee or whatever.
Yeah, the intention would be to do a site visit. I think it's important for the minister to actually see the area that we're talking about. And I think, based on what DNR staff supported, I think the minister will understand that it is a completely and totally safe site. And will not impact on the public in any way.
Turned it off, thank you very much. But I want to thank you, Mr. Dolter, because you have made every effort to get these deer under control, and it's appreciated by council. The effort that the town has made is not minor, it's significant. There's been a lot of work that's gone into this. We just haven't been successful.
Correct.
And so we have to change our tactic, or at least modify it, Thank you.
And, yeah, I appreciate that, and certainly I'd be remiss if I didn't take my hat off to Ms. Grant as well, too. She puts a heck of a lot of effort into this as well, too. I'm sure it's an area that she never ever dreamed that she would be involved in, but again, she certainly puts a lot of work towards it as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Deputy Mayor, and I look forward to that meeting. I do think it should be on site, and I'll host it at my house because I'll show them my own herd. As we well know, I've been very vocal about that the last few years. Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, a part of that discussion should also be a solution to strengthen the fines. I mean, we can fine people, but we can't collect it.
Correct.
So people are, there's one lady spent $6,000 in apples.
Yeah, that's right. There's nothing tangible, like if you can't renew your driver's license if you're feeding the deer, and you're not supposed to be, but if there's nothing tangible, there's no incentive not to feed them. So, and it's still happening regularly. And people, I've said it so many times, you are not helping the deer by feeding them. They do not eat pizza. They eat, they're supposed to eat natural grass, twigs, whatever, but you're not helping the deer. Okay, I think we're at the end of our questions there. So now does anyone else have questions by members? Okay, Councillor Talbot, you have something?
I'd like to make a motion to have an amendment to the town's planning strategy, and it's a two-part motion. Number one, create a West Prince Neighborhood Area Advisory Committee. The Municipal Planning Act allows for such a committee to be formed, and that committee would define the extents of the lands that were historically part of the Allen or West Prince neighborhood. The creation of an Area Advisory Committee for West Prince neighborhood. This committee would advise PAC on all planning matters affecting the West Prince neighborhood. All planning applications affecting lands in West Prince Street neighborhood would go through the committee. Committee members should be mostly made up of residents from the neighborhood. And second, change the policy area and zoning of land in West Prince Street neighborhood. Change the policy area designation and zoning of all lands in West Prince neighborhood that are currently zoned or designated regional service to urban corridor policy area under urban corridor zone. This zone policy area would change would not impact lands currently zoned general residential, the existing residential area on West Prince Street. The urban corridor policy area and urban zone are designed to allow for a range of development options, but in a controlled way with protections in place for abutting residential areas.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Councillor, you're proposing that motion today?
I am.
So before we can have discussion on it, I'm going to require a seconder. Councillor Pryor? Okay. And now the discussion can begin. Discussion.
So I would just want to make sure everybody's clear too. So we're asking, essentially the
two-part
motion
motion. Yeah.
is two items. One is to establish the committee, which would be made up mostly of residents of the West Prince area, and the second is to look at the zoning amendment of the plan. So just so I think everybody understands, I just want to be clear there.
That's right. And just so I don't scare people, this committee would have no more authority than any other town committee. It would not be a decision-making body. It would make recommendations to the Planning Advisory Committee, and the final decision to approve or not approve the recommendations would rest with council.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you very much, Counselor. Counselor Graham.
I have 4 questions that I've already had initial discussion on with our planning department, but for the benefit of the public, I thought it would be helpful to review them here. The first is, in what way will the committee report to council or PAC? Will it take the format of a written report? Will committee members appear in person? Would there be an opportunity for questions and answers with the committee, either to PAC or to council?
You got him? Okay.
We good?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so as far as reporting relationship to council, how that would go would be usually would be probably something similar to what the Planning Advisory Committee and what the Heritage Advisory Committee do now, which is a letter from the chair, which would outline the whatever the motion was of the committee and their recommendation on a particular development application. That would just be forwarded to council and read into the record, the same as you would now get a letter from Heritage or from the Planning Committee.
Thank you. What weight would council or PAC be required to give to the recommendation from that committee when we're considering decisions?
Through the mayor, that would be the same level of consideration you would give to a recommendation from any other committee, such as the Heritage Committee or Planning Committee. So it would just be up to the individual councillor to give whatever weight they deemed appropriate.
My third question is with regard to the geography that the proposed committee would have influence or jurisdiction, for lack of a better word, over when they are reporting back to council or PAC.
Right, so that's undefined at this point. I think there'll be some initial work that needs to be done with the committee and some research that would have to be done to determine perhaps what the historical boundaries of the West Prince neighborhood or the island what it historically would have occupied, and perhaps look at that as being the recommendation for the area that would be subject to the Area Advisory Committee. But there's a lot of work to be done on determining what that is at this point.
Yes, because I suspect that the committee may or may not, again, up to the discretion of the committee, like to consider not just the area considered historically as the Black community, but maybe they might appreciate having the opportunity to discuss abutting areas as well, just as a suggestion possibly.
Yeah, sure, that could all be considered, I would think, as part of the establishment of the committee.
And my final question is the composition of the committee. Will there be, or do you know, or will it be at the discretion of the new committee if there will be a seat for a council representation?
That would be up to the mayor and council to decide committee membership.
Mayor and council, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Dolter, you clarified that there are really sort of 2 asks here. Do we want to split this into 2 motions and consider them separately, or do we want to push ahead under 1 motion, or perhaps that?
We did have somebody propose a motion and seconded it, so I think, is council satisfied with it being as one motion for both items? I don't think they necessarily see them as being separate items.
Okay.
So I think we're good with that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor Hinton. I'd just like to hear a little bit of background, Councillor Talbot, the rationale for the committee and why the request has come forward.
Well, the community is concerned with their preservation. I don't want to get into the history of racism and how these communities were placed on the extremities of the town. Little consideration has been given in development. There is a provincial movement, and there's proposed legislation that would give more of a voice to the community members for developments that directly impact on their community. And I guess that's it. The request, I'm carrying the request forward for the community. There are a number of members of the community that are very, very concerned with what might happen. For example, the Kingston Luna is a big piece of property that could be sold and developed, and that could be, with the present zoning, that there'd be no restriction in terms of what would come in there. So the community is concerned, and that's the reason for the motion. And as you know, 3 or 4 years ago, actually the previous council, the town did form a committee, a combined committee of the Black community and the town to address issues directly affecting the community. That committee sent a letter of support or a request that this be put in place, so that's kind of the rationale.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Graham?
Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Fox. One more question. Could you please describe to us the current zoning, just as a refresher, where it begins and ends for the West Prince area of town, and what the new zoning will look like? And I understand that it goes to the middle of the TAC grounds at present, and why that decision was made to change the zoning at that point, and what benefits there are to changing it again. If you could just give us an overview of that, it would be.
Yeah, well, Juniper, the properties with the existing commercial properties essentially that have frontage on Juniper Street would be zoned regional service,
Yeah.
which is like a highway-oriented sort of commercial type. It's a pretty permissive zone. It allows quite a broad range of commercial uses. It's whether the mall is located, it's where Walmart's located. So the properties with frontage on Juniper, they're all pretty much commercial today, would be zoned regional service with the exception of Kiwanis Pond. There are a few properties on West Prince Street to the east of Juniper that would be also zoned regional service, and that would include all the way down to the Chow family and the Toyota dealership, Kingston Aluminum. And then there would be, I believe, the Golf Street property is still also, I'm not positive about that, I don't have it in front of me, but I believe it's also regional service. There's a property on the corner there as well. So there's a number of regional service properties, and then aside from that, the West Prince, the island itself, neighborhood would all be zoned general residential, which is the sort of the most restrictive residential zone we have, and that's the one that's applied to the West Prince neighborhood. And then I believe there's some urban corridor zone further down Prince Street to the east of Golf and Patillo, or Golf, sorry, just Golf, east of Golf.
Okay. So then it is all going to be, so where will it?
This is all to be determined and to be discussed. So none of this has been finalized at this point, is my understanding. The motion leaves some room for the committee to look at what would be impacted by the change.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. That was what I was looking for.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Mr. Fox, for that clarification. Councillor Talbot?
Yeah, and just a final word, I'd say the community is asking me, why did urban corridor stop at the TAC ground? Why was it not originally extended to the community? I couldn't answer that question.
Thank you. Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am looking at the policy and zoning maps here, just out of my own curiosity. It does look like the area at Golf is currently zoned urban corridor, but policy regional service, I think. But similar to other questions, I am just curious how this zoning is going to look, which properties explicitly are going to change. But I think, Mr. Fox, you just answered that basically this is to be discussed. So the motion today is not necessarily to rezone anything right now, but is for a staff report to look into the rezoning, and by council, passing this resolution that we agree that the rezoning should be looked at.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. This would be something that would be considered by Planning Advisory Committee and perhaps if the area advisory committee is created, that is in the motion to create that committee. So that may get created first, and that committee could be involved in helping to define what is the extent of the area.
Okay, and when we're looking at rezoning anywhere, at West Prince, the island, anywhere within town, when we're looking at rezoning, what impacts are there to existing uses? Like, I know we've talked about the feed mill on Brunswick Street and an inability to rezone there because of what's the current usage. And sometimes if we rezone something, we can't rezone something against what's currently there. Is that correct?
No, you can rezone something that doesn't reflect you can change a zone to something that doesn't reflect the current use. It would just make that use what's considered to be a legal non-conforming use. So it's lawfully there today, but it can't continue to exist if it ceases to operate at some point in time, it can't recommence. There's a time period, I think it's 6 months. So if it doesn't operate for 6 months, then it can't restart up as being whatever it was previously. It can only be a use permitted in the zone.
Right, so if there are uses there in that regional service zone that would not currently be conforming to the urban corridor zone, they would be allowed to continue, but if they cease to operate under, for that use, and then whatever the time period, if it's 6 months as you suggest, or whatever the time period may be, if they cease, then it would fall fully to urban corridor, and urban corridor policy would apply.
Yeah, it's not. Unfortunately, there's been some legal decisions on issues of non-conforming status and what that means, and the ability to recommence uses and things like that. So it's not as cut and dried and clear as what you're suggesting, but generally, yes, that is how that would work.
Yeah, nothing's ever as simple as we would like it to be here, I guess. Just looking for those clarifications, because obviously if there are impacts, how is this going to impact current property owners, et cetera? And I don't know if the town solicitor wants to weigh in on any of that potential legal impacts, but that's all I'm trying to get to. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Talbot.
Yeah, I don't know why we're having such a debate over this, because it should be straightforward, in my opinion. This council and the previous council and the previous council, they fought against the John Ross being in the middle of town. There's no consideration given to where Kingston Aluminum presently was the town dump that the community was exposed to. That could re-happen the way it's sown now. The community just wants some protection, and I don't think it's an unreasonable request. And I'm getting a little bit irritated that people are asking so many questions.
Thank you, Councillor. So, Council, a motion has been put on the floor by Councillor Talbot, and it is to create a West Prince Street Neighborhood and Advisory Committee. And number 2, all in one motion, the policy area and zoning of lands in West Prince Street area. Motion was made by Councillor Talbot, seconded by Councillor Pryor. Are we ready for the question? Oh, what's that?
Deputy Mayor.
Oh, is Deputy Mayor, is he? Oh, he stepped out. We'll wait. Sir, thank you.
Should we ask more questions while we wait?
Well.
If I may, actually.
Oh, yep. Councillor McGrath.
Just the intent is not to irritate, sir, but council's job here is governance, so we want to make sure we're obviously investigating these changes, and I think I'm going to vote in support of the motion. I agree with it, but we just want to make sure that we've dotted all the I's, crossed all the T's. This is what we're here to do, to make sure we get the best for the town and the community.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor. Welcome back, Deputy Mayor. So we were just saying that the motion has been put on the floor by Councillor Talbot. It has been seconded by Councillor Pryor to create a West Prince Street Area Neighborhood Advisory Committee and to change the policy and area and zoning of lands in the West Prince Street area. Are we ready for the question? Yes. All in favor of the motions put forward today, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Contrary minded? Motion's passed. Thank you, Council. Okay. Is there any further questions by members today? Seeing none. Oh, another late hand up. Deputy
Sorry
Mayor.
about that,
Yeah.
but sorry about this. You know, I don't want to delay the meeting here, but I just have a question for the town engineer. It has to do with a traffic question. I guess I'm always going east on Arthur Street and turning right on Young Street. And it seems as though the majority of traffic going through is either going straight through the intersection on Arthur heading east or turning right and going up Young Street. Not much of the traffic turns left onto Young Street. And yet at that intersection, if you're headed east, there's an arrow for traffic to go straight through or turn right. That's one lane. And then there's a left-hand turn lane. And I just think it would be better suited for traffic, just an opinion, and I would wonder if it could be looked at, to change it so that you have a lane going straight through or turning left and one lane turning right. I think it would speed things up. That's what I've observed, but so I'm just bringing it up as what I've observed, and I think it would be helpful, but there we are.
Mr. McKinnon?
We can review that, but the whole idea is that the odd vehicle that does turn left, that they're sitting in a dedicated lane out of your way, so the majority of traffic can flow straight. That's the whole idea of the dedicated left turn lane there. Yeah. We'll review.
Yeah, thank you. I completely understand that, but it's just so few traffic turning left versus right, right? So it would clear it out, but, I'm not any traffic authority. I'll leave it with you, but the protest has been made.
I think you'd be surprised at how one or two vehicles turning left, how much traffic they could queue back that's trying to go straight.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Item 8, new business. Item A, request for decision, funding application for Cobequid Drive. Mr. Dolter?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So in the fall of 2024, the province of Nova Scotia released a new fund pool for growth, renewal, for infrastructure development program, also known as GRID, as part of their new housing initiatives. This fund intends to help municipalities expand and upgrade existing infrastructure to facilitate new housing developments or improve existing housing conditions. The town of Truro submitted an application for this program on December 3rd, 2024, to install 125 meters of new storm sewer bypass line, upgrade 275 meters of existing sanitary sewer, replace a new concrete curb, and rehabilitate the existing street, all on Cobequid Drive. The town has made an application requesting up to $1,381,790. Total project costs are expected to be approximately $2,763,579. That's approximate. Therefore, if the town were successful in obtaining the $1,381,790 in funding through the province of Nova Scotia's Growth and Renewable for Infrastructure Development Program, the town would require to fund the remaining 50% in the amount of $1,381,790. In order to complete the requirement for the funding application, a council resolution must be passed and completed before the funding is awarded. And again, this is work that we have had on the books for this year, and again, it was delayed. So this is a good opportunity to offset some of the costs we were likely to incur 100% ourselves. So proposed motion is be it resolved that the Town of Truro Council supports an application to the Province of Nova Scotia's Growth and Renewal for Infrastructure Development Program for the recapitalization of Cobequid Drive to improve existing housing conditions within the immediate and surrounding areas of Cobequid Drive, as well as facilitate future residential developments south of this area.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. I now call for a motion to be made. Councillor Fleming, seconded Councillor McGrath. Councillors, any discussion? Councillor Fleming.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you too, Mr. McKinnon. Is this project part of the water mitigation, the recent flood we had there in Harris Drive and that area? Is that going to help that at all, or?
Cut the stormwater off from flowing from the Cobequid Drive street down through the Harris Drive, Kroll Drive neighborhoods.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Councillor McGrath?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Either Mr. McKinnon or Mr. Dolter. Mr. Dolter, you said that this was work that we were planning to do anyway, but having the funding obviously makes it a little bit cheaper for us. If we are unsuccessful in this funding, are we still planning to move ahead with that work?
There is at least, well, there is a major portion of the work, yes, we are still committed to completing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Council. Motion has been made by Councillor Fleming. It has been seconded by Councillor McGrath. All those in favor of funding the application for Cobequid Drive, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. Item 10B, it's now 10B, it was 10C, is the number 2 Construction Battalion commemoration. Mr. Dolder, is Ms. Grant?
Ms.
Here
Grant is
she
going
comes
to, she's
the
going to
speaker.
talk about this project.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Grant. Welcome. You're good to go.
Perfect.
Oh, you're waiting for the screen to come down. Yeah.
Perfect, all set. So yeah, just wanted to come today and give you an overview of the renaming of the TAC Grounds project and the additional monument and commemoration project that we'll be conducting. So as was already discussed, a quick overview. The national apology was delivered to the descendants of the No. 2 Construction Battalion by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and at the time Defence Minister Anita Anand back in July 9th, 2022. It was at this time that Council pledged to rename the TAC Grounds to honor the No. 2 Construction Battalion. That decision was made in June of 2022, and then it was announced during Mayor Mills' speech at the apology event. And then the intent behind that pledge was to rename the grounds once the TAC Grounds revitalization project was complete, which we expect to be this coming summer, and the facility will open with a new name. Just to give you a bit more background, the battalion has significant provincial and national importance. While it was initially headquartered in Pictou, Nova Scotia, as it grew, the headquarters was moved to Truro, Nova Scotia, and the TAC Grounds was the former training and drilling grounds for the battalion. You can see the photo here that shows the battalion on the site. So while you've heard about the renaming project, there will be a number of things that happen on the site as well to honor the No. 2 Construction Battalion. So there will be an on-site monument with educational panels. The educational panels will include a history of the battalion and also of the Truro Amateur Athletic Club. We will hold a commemoration event in conjunction with the grounds reopening, and then the renaming of the grounds to honor the No. 2 Construction Battalion. The installation of the monument and the commemoration event is planned for the summer of 2025 so that the grounds can reopen with the new name. And a subcommittee of the African Nova Scotia Community Strategy Committee has been formed to oversee this entire project. So these are just a couple of site plans and concept plans to show you exactly where the monument will be displayed on the site and how it will look. So we plan to put the monument next to the main parking area at the entrance as you enter the grounds. And then the second photo there is just a bird's eye view of what the monument will look like with the educational or interpretive panels, some nice landscaping and some seating as well. So we do have a renaming contest out now. So the contest is currently open and will run to the end of the month to allow anyone to submit naming suggestions for the new facility. There are some guiding principles that we've asked the public to consider. So we want the new name to be inspired by history and community and draw from historical research, local stories, and community knowledge. We want to promote engagement and unity. So the new name should be inspired ongoing conversations and unite the community. And paramount is to honor the legacy of the No. 2 Construction Battalion. So it's essential that the new name reflects the contributions and sacrifices of these individuals. Anybody wishing to participate for the renaming ceremony or for the renaming contest can go online. There is a link on the town's website. We're also promoting it through our social media, so people can find out more information there as well. And if you don't want to submit online or you don't have access to online, you can also pick up paper copies of the forms at Town Hall or at Douglas Street Rec Center, and we'll make sure those get included. And then the winning name, we decided by that subcommittee of the African Nova Scotia Community Strategy Committee, and will be announced next month during Black History Month. And the new name will be unveiled as part of the commemoration event next summer. So that's everything.
Thank you very much, Ms. Grant. Any questions for Ms. Grant? No questions?
Just one point of, well, I think it was clear, but I would just make sure. So the two storyboards that will be on site, one would be devoted to the history of the battalion, and the second one would be for the history of the tack grounds itself. So again, we don't want to lose that history because it is very important to the town. And right now, in fact, it's not available to a lot of people that visit the town because, again, it's not accessible. So again, I think it's a big step forward for people to understand, you know, the history of the tack grounds itself, but clearly the battalion history is an important part of the tack grounds history, that up to this point has not been part of the story that we've told.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolder. Thanks for your report today, Ms. Grant. Thank you very much. We are now moving on to item 10C, which was 10D, request for decision, the interest relief water utility customers. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So due to the Canada Post strike, water utility customers whose water bills were due or billed during the strike had limited ability to issue payments to the town and or receive their water bills. Therefore, staff are recommending that interest be waived until January 31st, 2025 for water utility customers in Zone 14 to Zone 20. So the proposed motion is that no interest shall be charged to water utility customers in Zone 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 until January 31st, 2025.
Thank you, Mr. Dolter. We're going to require a motion for this. Motion by Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Fleming. All in favor, say aye. Contrary minded? You have a question? No question? Okay, contrary minded? Motion is passed. I like that. It's very, it's a good thing to do. It's a feel-good.
Yeah, and it was part, and just so the public understands,
Very good.
it's about $1,000 in interest that won't be collected, but again, it is situations without a lot of people's control.
Very good. Item now 10D, request for decision, Planning Advisory Committee appointment. Mr. Dolter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Truro Advisory Committee has a vacancy currently and requires a new member. The mayor and deputy mayor met to discuss and are recommending to council that TJ Jordan be appointed to the committee. TJ has board experience and is an active community member. So the proposed motion is that be it resolved that council appoint TJ Jordan to the Truro Planning Advisory Committee for a 3-year term.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dolder. Who would like to make the motion, please? Councillor Graham, seconded by Councillor Fleming. Any discussion on the motion? Councillor McGrath.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just more of a process question. I know when we were asked to appoint members to a rec board, we were provided with resumes. I don't believe I know Mr. Jordan. I think I've seen him perhaps at a planning advisory committee meeting, which is possibly a positive that he was there to start with. But I don't know the gentleman. Do we have any resume or other background? It's just normally we have that on other board recommendations or council recommendations.
We did review we did review all the resumes, and I do want to say that I appreciate, and I think all council appreciates everyone who puts their name forward to be on a committee.
Oh, absolutely.
And so I certainly do. We need our committees to function. So we did review those, and our recommendation was, with Deputy Mayor and I, that his name be brought forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So everyone's good with that? Were motions made, seconded? So that has been approved. All in favor? Yes. Contrary minded? No. Okay, we're good. Motion approved. And welcome to Mr. Jordan to the committee. We look forward to working with him. So here we are at the end. I want to thank council staff, our CAO, solicitor, and all those who watched our meeting today, and those in the chamber. There will be a lot of wonderful events coming up in February as we kick off Black History Month, which is going to be our big event with the town. Is going to be at 7 o'clock at the Truro Fire Hall. Also, the Long John Festival will be getting underway, where I will not be wearing long johns, but many people will be, and I'm looking forward to that. It's always a great and fun event. I want to thank everyone today. I want to ask everyone to be kind to each other and be kind to our town. Our next public town meeting is going to be Monday, February the 3rd. Please join us if you can. I declare the Town of Truro Council meeting on January 13th, 2025 adjourned at 3 o'clock p.m. Thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing you next month.